A bunch of people better be online, or else I'm going to be driving around with my stick and beating them. Um, so, so let's see who's online. Poke, Mr. Terry. You guys don't have a choice in the matter. Um, and hopefully we'll have a few more people online. But all right, well, so I've started going through the project ideas thing that you guys had you fill out just to give me a sense for what you were thinking. And a fair number of you have actually said that you wanted to do something with MakeCode Arcade, which is fine. So I thought we'd spend a little bit more time looking at stuff in MakeCode Arcade. Um, some of this is going to be translatable to um, the MakeCode Minecraft stuff or to Scratch proper. Some of it won't directly transfer because syntax and whatnot, the architecture is a little different, but that's okay. We can still have some fun. Um, so last time we did this text conversion. We also did some looping, uh, etc. So why don't we just make something new? Also, by the way, there are a number of very nice tutorials that are built into this thing. Um, so I think several people mentioned games that would be kind of like Mario-esque, okay, so side-scrolling platformers, or Space Invaders, Galaga, games that are sort of along those lines where you're like flying a ship and you can either, like in Galaga, you can move up and down only and shoot, and then like in Space Invaders, you can move left and right only and shoot, right? Variations on that theme. So there are some nice tutorials in here for to kind of get started with things. And there's tons of them, right? I mean, simple extensions, name tags, maze, paddle. The paddle, I wonder if that's probably something like Pong type, ping pong or whatever type game. So I figured let's just make something. And this very first tutorial, actually, let's go through that. And we'll go through it in block mode, but of course we can um, uh, do some stuff. Okay, so the point of this game is that you're the little smiley face, and the clock winds down, and you want to get as many pizzas as you can, um, and then presumably time will run out at some point. So okay, um, so this is sort of a tutorial, right? Um, and so it's going to walk us through exactly what to do. All right, so we said set background color, and then we'll go next. Click the gray color oval to select the palette and select the background color, okay? And that's up to us. We can pick whatever color you want. So let me just pick, let me pick this sort of dark blue color, okay? And that's what it would look like. Yeah, great. Okay, next. Open the sprites and let's do drag the first block, set my sprite on start to your workplace. Okay. So what this is going to do is, so the sprites um, in MakeCode Arcade, and this is a little bit different than Scratch. Each sprite is sort of part of a category. Um, okay, and so where it says sprite blah of kind player, the category is the player. Okay, so there can be any number of categories and you can choose them. So, for example, let's say you were making like a Mario type game, right? You could have an enemy category or an items category or things like that, right? So every sprite is going to be member of some group of objects. Uh, and the player one is sort of a special one because what can the player do? Well, he can use the controller or keyboard input to do things. So different classes of objects will have different sort of abilities, if you will, and the player or players, if you were doing multiplayer, would be able to move based on keyboard commands. Okay, so does that kind of make sense? Um, well, theoretically, no. It's just what you put in, like what you have do. Um, so, like for example, you could do something like um, if the player overlaps with an object that's of a say power up kind, it would do one thing. But if he overlaps with say an object that's of a type enemy, it would do something else, right? So, like, I mean, think about this. Like, say you were programming Pac-Man, right? What kind of different objects would you need to program Pac-Man? You'd need obviously Pac-Man. Okay, so there's your player object. What else? You would need the little white dots, the nibbles or whatever they call them. Okay. What else would you need? You need the ghosts. Okay, and the ghosts are going to be the tricky one there because they've got to have the basically AI to chase Pac-Man around, unless what else is in Pac-Man? Huh? I'm sorry, I can't. Yeah, the food power up dot whatever those are called. Okay, the things that are in the corners that if you touch them, what happens? You become invincible temporarily, and you can eat the ghosts. Okay, and then there's a fifth kind of item that was sort of a bonus, if you will, in classic Pac-Man. There was like the cherry and the lemon, and there were several fruits that you could get that were like, I don't think they actually did anything. It was just like, if you could collect them, it was, you could like brag to your friends. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it probably did. Okay. Well, when Dr. Brown walks by, uh, let's grab him because he was definitely around in the 80s when these things were in the arcades, and he can tell us what exactly fruits did. Okay, so uh, yeah, so in terms of the coding difference, like if I make a thing and I call it like food pellet, right? There's nothing special inherently about food pellet versus fruit versus whatever. But what it does mean is it gives me a basis for um, determining what to do if I say touch one of those objects, right? Touching a fruit object should do something different than touching a food pellet object, etc. Yeah, we'd have to define all of these things, and then right. And in fact, as we go through this particular little tutorial, because we're going to have a player object and also the pizza objects, we'll kind of see what the difference is between different object types and how we change the different object types. Okay, does that kind of make sense? And just quick show of hands, how many of you guys that are in the room right now, we're going to do something with arcade as opposed to Minecraft. So, okay, good. So, I mean, if like all of you were going to do Minecraft, then I'd say, all right, let's talk Minecraft. But since there's a good chunk of you doing arcade, and I don't know. I mean, if I had a time machine and I could go back 3 weeks, I might have just made the executive decision that we're all doing arcade. But I dangled Minecraft in front of you, and I didn't want to take it away because that would feel like kind of a jerk move, right? Because some of you guys got really excited when I said the word mine and then followed my craft. Yeah, okay, which is fine, right? Um, okay, so, oh, also on the subject, other than for this class, how many of you guys are like pretty regular using Twitch? Like viewing things on Twitch, not necessarily streaming. Or just whatever, right? Like watching other people play games, watching, yeah. Anybody do the debate watch last night with us? Just Dr. Drury? Oh, you weren't on the Twitch, okay. Yeah, anyway. Well, because what I'm thinking, I think I mentioned this, is us doing like a game jam where you live stream all your stuff on Twitch and do something kind of fun with that. So, got a few ideas. Anyway. All right, well, let's get back to it. So, let's keep going through this tutorial. So, set my sprite on start, right? So, the on start, that's kind of like in Scratch, the green flag checked thing, or in the Minecraft thing, when you hit the play button inside the code interface, it actually starts running it, okay? So we've created a new player object, right? Um, and then we're going to, so the thing here, right, where it's got this little gray box, this is how the sprite will look. Then the kind is what type of object it is. But right now, our sprite is just a empty gray box. Okay, so we need some art here. And we can draw something with the pixel editor, or we can go into the gallery. And just for the sake of time, I'll pick something out of the gallery so we don't have to sit here and draw, and you guys don't have to look at my crappy art skills. Um, so let's find something that looks, I don't know, um, huh? The duck? All right, how about this duck? Okay. Okay, so we'll have this silly little duck. There he is, right? Now, you notice that when I clicked the gallery there, it had multiple different looking ducks. And the idea would be kind of like the costumes in vanilla Scratch, that I could change the way that the duck is displayed based on like which way it's moving or something like that to sort of make it look animated, sort of thing. For right now though, I'll just leave it as this one solid image and not make it animate. But okay, so we've got a nice sprite. Okay, and then we're going to go to the controller, and we're going to put this here, and basically say the my sprite object can be moved by buttons. So this is attaching essentially the controller or keyboard to the my sprite object, and then I hit the little plus thing there, and it gives me options for VX and VY. That would basically be so I can set the speed of at which the dock is able to move. And you notice that those things are sort of roundy sockets, so variables could go there, right? So you could, for example, have a like if you touch a mushroom, then it doubles your speed for temporarily. But those can be variables. And we could even set one of them to be zero. Okay, so if, for example, you were trying to make like a Space Invaders game, right? You only want the player to be able to move left and right. Well, so you could set the VY to be zero, and then the player is unable to move up and down. Okay. All right. I obviously don't want that here. Okay. And so let's try it out. And if I'm hitting the arrow keys, and actually this is kind of cool. I didn't notice this before, but you see how when I hit an arrow key, it's highlighting the controller button that corresponds to it. That's neat. Especially for testing reasons. You know exactly what's being registered. Okay, good. So let's go next. So let's make a new sprite. Okay, so it's going to be, say, my sprite 2, and we need to set this thing to be on kind instead of player. Let's let's see. Here we go. My sprite 2, let's call this, well, it says pizza. Okay. And then what kind is this object? It's the kind pizza. Okay. Now, there is a distinction here between the category pizza and the object that actually has the name pizza. Okay. So if I make an instance of it like this piece of pizza is the thing called pizza, but it is category of category, or it's an object in category pizza. Is that confusing? Okay, so what that means is try not to do that, right? Make pizza a category or an object in category food, or maybe call it pizza one or something. I don't know. Okay, we'll just go with the way they've written it in the tutorial for sake of completeness. Okay, and then we also need to pick um, what this is going to look like. Fortunately, they have pizza for us right there. So we've got a pizza object, okay? And you can now see the pizza object has spawned in the middle of the screen. Okay, and um, okay, so let's go to sprites, and on sprite overlaps other sprite, okay? So that would be this one here, and we're going to put that. Notice that this doesn't go inside the on start code, okay? So the on start code is just what runs the instant that the game starts, okay? But then we also are going to have basically what happens if you overlap a pizza object, okay? Oops, that's not what I meant. Okay, so what do we want? When sprite sprite of kind player overlaps another sprite of kind, well, this would be food. Actually, you know what? I think we should have made this pizza thing part of the food category because these need to match, right? The object types. Okay. So we've done that. And then when our player overlaps the pizza, let's increase the score. Okay. So let's go to, let's see, this is under info, change score by 1. Okay. So let me move around. So you see the score that's over at the top right? If I touch the pizza, what's happening? Yeah, it is. Okay, and why is it happening that it keeps going up like that? Yeah, it's doing it basically, it's checking over and over again, hundreds of times per second. Am I touching an object of type food? If yes, add a point. Right? Well, if I put the dock over the pizza, it's touching at a point, it's touching at a point. So it's going to, the score is going to go up pretty rapidly. Okay, obviously that's not what I want, so we'll add some stuff to make that not happen. Yeah.
Slight tangent. You said Scratch can't actually do that dual processing thing in Microsoft MakeCode.
No. This is all happening. So yeah, it's well, okay. Scratch makes it seem like things are running in parallel, but they're in fact running sequentially. And sometimes, particularly with Scratch, you can get some weird bugs based on how it actually is, the order is actually running. Yeah, so that's one thing I like about MakeCode Arcade slightly more than Scratch is that it doesn't make it, um, it's not quite as deceiving as to how parallel or non-parallel processing works. Okay, because believe me, parallel programming is a real pain in the butt. Okay, because you have to keep everything synchronized. Uh, Now, if they're doing two completely independent operations, then it doesn't matter, right? So if you have like one core of your processor doing video encoding and another core doing like image touch-up scripts in Photoshop, well, those have nothing to do with each other, and so it doesn't matter how fast one is running or where one of them is in the process versus another. You just keep them going. But if you're trying to write, for example, a game that has that uses multiple cores, then it can really you can have problems in terms of keeping everything synced up. So real games like single player games, you have less of a problem here. Networked things that brings in a whole host of other issues, right? Because then you have to worry about all the different client computers and the server, and that's a big fat nightmare, right? So what I would not want to do or have to worry about is how like Fortnite network code works, because that seems to me to be a big freaking nightmare. Because you got 100 different people plus the
Well, they changed in the update to have one not to care about the game,
oh, okay, well,
so
but
yeah,
yeah.
I started like this. I'm like, wait.
Touche. Yeah. Yeah. It's an impressive comeback for this early in the morning. You know. Yeah. So the network code for something like that is probably a bit of a nightmare because you've got a server and you've got 100 different clients, and good luck keeping all that sorted out. Like, that makes my head hurt. Okay. So we've got the overlap thing, but we're going to be cranking up the score. And the reason is because in the idea of the game was that if there's an overlap, the pizza should move to be someplace else. So I can't just like sit there and harvest it. Okay. So under sprites, um, okay, so I'll do this. And then which sprite is it? It's the pizza sprite that I want to move. And then under math, right, I've got two random things, so I'll put one there and another one here. Okay, and this is useful that we went through this because it tells us what the screen size is. Okay, so how many pixels wide is it? 160. How many tall is it? 120. Okay. Um, Now, what it hasn't told us is where the origin is, and there's three places that I could think that it is. Where's Y? Well, okay. Really, the origin is 0, 0? Okay, where is that on the screen is what I mean. Okay. Well, where are the possibilities for where it could be? Like, just thinking. The center of the screen would be one logical possibility. The top left or bottom left would be the other two. Okay? And it depends on the coordinate system that they've chosen for this. My suspicion is that it's either the bottom left or the middle. Okay. Now, on old school computers, the coordinate system, and this is still actually true in OpenGL, the top left was the origin, and the X went horizontal, increasing as you went to the right. But here's the annoying thing: the Y axis ran down. The positive direction went down the screen, not up the screen. Does that sound annoying? Yeah. Okay. It's annoying because it's a left-handed coordinate system. And how many of you are left-handed? Evil. Evil. Yeah. Get out. Um, well, so what I mean by that is that the usual XYZ coordinate system that we talk about in math class is what we call a right-handed coordinate system. The doing the string that way is a left-handed system, and it means that uh, everything you think of from math class, you have to sort of reverse one of the coordinates on computer graphics, which is kind of a pain, but whatever. Okay, so we're going to pick a random position between 0 and 160 in the x direction and 0 and 120 in the y direction. Okay, and then my assumption then is that that means that the origin's actually at the bottom left. Okay. All right. So if I run this, I mean it is running, right? Then what should happen when I touch the pizza? I get a point, but what happens? Yeah, it's going to reset. Okay, so I can't sit there and spam farm touching the pizza. Okay, so does that kind of make sense? All right, so this has taught us the coordinate system, but also the different events, okay? All right, so let's keep going. So then there was this countdown thing. Okay, so now let's do it. So what's going to happen? Let's just sit here and let the timer run out. Okay, it automatically triggered a game over thing. We didn't actually program that, but um, yeah, okay. But that's okay. So let me go back to the block thing though. So what's the idea then in the real game, right, is that the timer starts over when you collect a pizza object and um, then the object is you want to get as many pizzas before time elapses. Okay, and how could we make this get a little bit more difficult? We could make the timer be smaller. So for example, right now, right now we're adding 10 seconds every time you touch the thing. But what about if we made it that like it's 10 minus something times the score? So the higher your score gets, the faster the timer is, and to increase the difficulty. Right? You can do all kinds of stuff like that. Okay, great. Now, since we've exited the tutorial mode, what's kind of nice is that we can go in now and see what this looks like in Python. Okay. Um, so, um, what? Sorry, let me hit stop on this so we don't. Oops. I hit a typo. Okay, there we go. All right, let me hit stop there. Okay, so we can look through here and kind of see what's going on. Um, in the thing up at the top, we're creating the object category called pizza. Okay. Now we never actually used that because um, I renamed the thing pizza to be a kind of food. Okay. So what do we have here? Well, we have this chunk right here. Okay, is defining a function. Okay, and what is the function called on overlap? Okay, and or on overlap, I guess, which is kind of a silly name, but whatever. And then what kind of objects does it depend on? Well, it's going to have two sprites that touch each other. Okay. When that happens, so notice how the stuff is tabbed over one level, right? So in the block mode, how do we know what's inside of what? Well, it's very obvious, right? It just looks like it's inside. In Python, the way you know what's inside of what is by the tabbing. Okay, so, and this makes sense. What did we have? Well, we had the thing, info, change score by 1. Okay, so when I touch the pizza, changes the score. Okay, good. What then else? What else happens? Pizza 2 dot set position. Okay, um, is setting the position to what's listed there. It's x coordinate, comma, it's y coordinate. Okay, and what are the x coordinate and the y coordinate? We randomized them, and then we started a countdown. Okay, so that stuff that I've got highlighted in blue is a function. Now, the function doesn't run unless it's instructed to run. Okay? So what calls the function? It'd be line 9 here that says when an object of type sprite kind player and sprite kind food overlap, trigger the on overlap, that particular on overlap. Okay? And let's say that we've had a different kind of thing. So we've got a pizza in here. Let me put in like a bomb or something that we don't want to touch. Okay, and let's add another object. Does that sound good? Yeah. And kind of see the distinction here. Okay, so let me go back to block mode for this. And I'm going to create a sprite. Okay, and I'm going to call this thing, let me say, bomb. And he's going to be a new sprite of category, let's just say enemy. And I've got to make it look like something. So let's see, is there something that's sort of bomb looking in this, in here? I don't know. Sorry. Okay, how about that thing? Okay. Okay, great. So what we need to do now is we need to say, okay, let's see, this is on, here we go, overlaps. On sprite of kind player overlaps with other sprite of kind enemy, we need to do something else. Okay, so let's just make it that when you touch the bomb, what should happen? Game over. Okay, so I think under info we can just say, I think there is something in here that's basically like just an instant game over. Here it is, game over of type lose. Okay. All right, so let me do the other thing here is let me randomize where the bomb is. When the game starts. It won't update where it is, but that's okay. Where's the RAM? There it is. And let me scooch this over so we can see it. Okay, and then let's do like with the pizza. There. Okay, so let's try this. All right, so if I touch the pizza, right, everything's hunky-dory. Every time I touch the pizza, what's running? This function here when I overlap with the pizza, okay? But then if I touch the bomb, right, it instantly, in this case, game over. Game over, man. Yeah.
So what if you put the set bomb position
Mm-hmm.
random under the every time you touch the pizza, so it's always changing?
Ah, could definitely do that, right? Okay, so let's do that. So let's duplicate this guy, but I'm going to set the bomb to also randomize. Okay, now the bomb and the pizza are not necessarily going to end up on top of each other, and that's probably a good thing, right? So the random number that's generated for the pizzas and the random number that's generated for the bombs, or the bomb, is not necessarily the same thing, okay? All right, so let's try it again, see what we get. Oh, well, that sucked. Womp womp. Okay, but we get the idea, sort of, for now. Okay, and so let's go back over to the Python view. Okay, and let's see what we've got. Well, what we have is This was the function that we wrote to do the overlap with the pizza detection. Okay, and everything that happens if you overlap pizza. So what happens if you overlap pizza? Okay, first thing is you get a point, then what? Yeah, it sets the position of the pizza to some random value, then what? It sets the position of the bomb to some other random value. And then finally it starts the 10-second countdown. Okay? Now, what is the function that's running if I overlap okay, so I'm just going to put some white space in here. This function is what runs if I touch the bomb. Okay? And game over false really means lose to the game. Okay? But whatever. Okay? And what triggers that, it would be this. Okay? All right, so for example, could I have multiple bombs or multiple pizzas for that matter? Yeah, totally. Okay, so let's add in where, let's see how we can do this. Let's add in just a second bomb for right this instant. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go back to blocks for this, just to start. Okay, and I'm going to duplicate the bomb and the set random position. Okay, I'm also going to format this so that it's not all hard to read. Okay, and I'm going to put this thing here, but I can't call it bomb anymore. I've got to call it, let's say, bomb2 and set bomb2 to be random position. Okay, now, what would happen if I touch the pizza? Okay, why is only one of them working? Or why is only one of them moving? Because here when I set the position, which object is it doing it to? Just the object called bomb, not both of them. Okay? All right, so what options do we have here? Well, I can say set position of bomb or bomb2. Okay, so I could just duplicate that and say do this to bomb2. Okay, now what about if I had, oh, I don't know, let's say there were going to be 30 bombs on the screen. Would I want to handle it that way? No, definitely not. So I'd want to handle, what I want to try to do is some sort of object-oriented thing, kind of like we did with clones and Scratch. Okay, that sort of approach is what I would want to use here. Okay. All right, which means we got to go digging through and see what different thingamajigs we have. Okay. Okay, so does that kind of make sense that what the issue is? Right, if there were multiple bombs, like lots and lots of them, I wouldn't want to have to do this for each single object. And same thing with creating that. The other thing I could do that would be kind of cool is like, what about if I say make it where every time the score goes up by one, I create a new bomb. Right? That'd be fun. Okay, so let's go digging and see what tools we have. Okay, so under Sprites, we have creating sprites, stuff with physics, stuff with effects, stuff with projectiles, starts with overlaps. We can access, change the kind. Sorry. Oh, that was not me. Okay, good. Life cycle on created sprite of kind whatever on something destroyed. Okay, so this would basically be like, you could do something like when a bomb gets created, do something, or when a bomb gets destroyed. So like, I don't know, maybe like you could get like a diffusal pack like in Counter-Strike or whatever and defuse the bomb. No. Then get all the mad loot crates and keys. How many of you guys play Counter-Strike? None of you? Oh, kids these days. Okay, so what we want to basically do is we want to try and get all objects of a particular kind. And so we just have to look and see what and I may have to kind of play with this. Yeah, set sprite list to array of sprites of kind player. That's what we want. Okay, so I would want to do that, okay? And then under arrays, what I could do is, or under, I think it was loops. Okay, I'm not sure if this is going to work, but let's find out. Yep, works. Okay. All right, so what's happening here? Let me pause it. So what did I do? Okay, where my mouse cursor is hovering over. Okay, I created a list that had all objects that were of type enemy. Okay, in this case, there's just two of them. Okay, and then the next thing I did was I iterated. Okay, over for everything that's in the list. Okay, well, how many things are in the list of this object called Sprite list right now? Just two, bomb and bomb two. Okay, for each thing in it, set the position to a random number of which object, whichever one that's popping out of my list. Okay, so what happens is my array, which is just a sequence of things, okay, like a collection of data, has two objects in it, bomb and bomb two, okay, and then it's going to say, okay, bomb is the first guy in my list, set bomb position to blah, and then what's the next guy in my list? His name is bomb two, set, and it replaces value with whatever the actual name is. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, so let's have it create, every time you touch the pizza, let's have it create another bomb. Sound good? All right, so what are we going to do? Let's, under sprites, we'll do this right here. Okay, and I'm going to make subsequent ones this green color just so that we can tell the difference, okay, of kind enemy. And then the other thing will randomize it. Okay, so let's try this out. Okay, so what's happening? Yeah, it's creating one more every time one more every time I go through the loop. Okay, does that make sense? And then I probably should have made this, let's make it bomb 3. Okay, so let's try that. Hmm. Okay, so the thing that I'm a little annoyed by right now, and I'll have to think about how to do this, is um, you saw how when I started the game, there was already one green sprite on the game board, right? And that's even though I hadn't yet touched any pizza. Okay. What? Oh, Dr. Brown, we need you. We were just discussing the classic 1980s arcade game called Pac-Man.
Yes.
What happened in the classic 1980s arcade game called Pac-Man when you got things like the cherry or the fruits? No, 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 not those. The like not the things that were in the corners that allowed you to eat the ghost, but like the actual like cherry or
Oh boy, I don't remember.
we were hoping you would.
No, all I remember about that game is it was a pattern game. People can memorize the pattern was the same every time. You didn't flip the screen.
Okay.
People end up doing it. But when you heard a number generator, it never reset at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, leave it to a physicist to ruin our fun. So anyway, okay. So basically, what I was wanting to do here is, um, well, actually, I guess I could do it this way. Let's see if that works. Failed cast on null. Um, hmm. Okay, guess I can't do that. Hmm. All right. Well, okay. So I think basically what I want to happen is, so you know how like in Scratch when we made a clone of something, we made sort of a master copy of it and then hid it so that you were only ever interacting with its sort of clone versions of it. That's kind of what I wanted to do here, but because this thing's structured differently, I'm not sure exactly how to do that. So anyway, I'll have to play with it. It's 8:50, so we should probably quit. Anyway, so kind of neat. Yeah. All right. Well, I will see you guys later. Yes.